This training is going to focus on providing effective family training. So knowing how to speak to parents and then how to work with them so that they can work with their children. Our philosophy here at Achieve Beyond is that we use the most recent research-based interventions to treat individual behaviors characteristic of autism spectrum disorder and not the diagnosis itself. ABA, or Applied Behavior Analysis, is recommended by the New York State Department of Health and the Surgeon General of the United States of America. Our approach to treatment is based in the understanding that the primary means by which all living beings behave is through the essential principles of ABA, meaning that not just children on the autism spectrum benefit from ABA, but all human beings and all living beings behave through the principles of ABA as well. And this is going to help us with family training. We are going to use ABA and the principles of ABA to assist families in working with their children. There are a lot of things that get parents very confused. There's some teaching procedures or behavioral phenomena that are either counterintuitive or difficult for parents to understand. Your BCBA should be explaining these concepts before your services start, but sometimes new words or new phrases may come up, so we're going to go through some ways that we can talk about this. So it is best practice for us to use behavioral terms, but a lot of parents don't understand what a behavioral term may be. So it's important that we need to know how to break them down and explain that to parents. So let's go through a bunch of examples. So our behavioral term reinforcer. The real world, we may say reward. So our definition may be something the child likes that makes them more likely to do the thing that he did before he got the reward in the future. So while we say reinforcers, parents may hear reward, they may think bribe. We need to go and make sure that we explain that a reinforcer is going to help us. It's something that a child likes that will make them do the behavior again more often in the future. So if Tommy's mom gave him a lollipop right after he discreetly hit his sister, Tommy is more likely to hit his sister in the future, right? So we could use this as an example of how it's reinforcing and it's a reward. Even though the parent may not think that, we have to show them that we're rewarding that poor behavior. Extinction is another behavioral term that may confuse a lot of parents. And so the real world term might be elimination. So we could say it's getting rid of a challenging behavior by ceasing or stopping to reward the child for doing it. So a non-clinical example may be, my boyfriend leaves his dirty towels on the bathroom floor and I have picked them up and washed them in the past. To eliminate the behavior of leaving towels on the floor, I would no longer pick them up and wash them. For a clinical example, we could use a learner engages in screaming and throwing behaviors to gain attention from his mother. To extinguish the screaming and throwing, the learner's mother would stop providing attention in any form when the learner screams or throws. And it's important to remember in any form because sometimes children's behaviors are rewarded by negative attention, meaning if the mother screamed out, stop it, or started yelling, that's still providing attention. And that will not extinguish the behavior will continue to go on. When we use the behavioral term extinction burst, we mean a spike in problem behavior. And what's that? Well, it's when a problem behavior temporarily gets way worse right before it's about to get better. We need to make sure that we explain this to parents before instructing them to extinguish a behavior because we need them to know that it may be working. We need to give it a little bit more time because sometimes we'll see a last-ditch effort. The child will throw everything they have at us and the behavior is going to get way, way worse. They're going to try and just one more time to get that attention or get that reward that they wanted. And if we don't go and pay attention to it, or if we are still working on extinguishing it, then the behavior will go immediately down after this extinction burst. It's extremely important that we inform parents of this phenomenon before instructing them to extinguish the behavior, right? We have to make them informed so this way they don't walk into this blind and think that something's wrong. We also want to make sure that we're taking data and graphing throughout, because we want to make sure that we see a spike in the behavior, and then we're looking for that immediate drop in the behavior. If we don't see that immediate drop, then we know that intervention is not working, and it is not an extinction burst. Instead, something else is provoking that behavior. So when we're graphing, this is what we want to see. We're going to see the initial behavior frequency, see how it's steady. We're going to see the reinforcement is removed, and then immediately we'll see an extinction burst where the behavior goes up. And then we're starting to see extinction occurring. So we see the behavior drop down. And every once in a while we may have a spontaneous recovery, meaning something happened and they're going to try it one more time to see if maybe they can get that attention. So we'll see that, but then we're going to see it dip down again. When we use the term pairing, that is a foreign term also. So basically, what does it mean? It means we're bonding. The real definition, a procedure whereby unconditioned and conditioned stimuli are presented together. So again, you are an unconditioned stimuli. You are neutral, right? You've never been with this child before. The child doesn't have anything to do with you. They've been conditioned to like their rewards. So you're pairing the neutral stimulus or the unconditioned stimulus, which is yourself, with a conditioned stimulus, which are his rewards or her rewards. And you're presented together so that you become a conditioned reinforcer. It is essential that this process and the variable length of time to become paired is explained to the parents from the very first session. So the BCBA on your case will be explaining it to the parents before you even start. You will also explain that, yes, I'm coming in to pair with your child. It's going to be looking like play. They're getting everything for free. The process is variable. It doesn't mean we pair one day and we're good. Sometimes it may take 3 days. Sometimes children may take a week. Some children may take 2 weeks. So it's important that we explain this to parents and how it's going to help us teach the child eventually as well. Sometimes we are asked questions that are difficult to answer. Here are some questions that parents frequently ask therapists. It's important to note that your BCBA has been trained to answer these questions. And if you're ever unsure of something, or if it's a programming or a therapy question, you should always say, that's a great question, let's ask the BCBA. Or, that's a great question, let me ask the BCBA and get back to you. We are going to get into some of these questions just so you have some background knowledge, but like we said, most of these should be referred back to your BCBA. So you might hear a parent say, why do I need to be present for ABA sessions? And we should say generalization and maintenance are extremely important for your child. So participating in sessions and learning how to implement strategies that are being utilized is essential. Observing what skills are being addressed and how they are being addressed will allow you to carry them over outside the session in more natural settings. Now, this is a big, long-winded explanation, but you should definitely say generalization and maintenance are very important. And you should learn how to teach the child using these methods, because then we can go and generalize the skills to different people and different environments. We also should note that parent or guardian needs to be present for an ABA session because it's liability and safety. So they should be within the building, right? You should never be doing a session at home by yourself. Sometimes we get a parent that says, do you think Johnny will ever talk? This question should only be answered by the BCBA, and I cannot stress that enough. Again, the BCBA has gone through this training, but you should be aware that the question should be answered like this. It's impossible to predict the future. However, we must set up situations that motivate the child to communicate. So, for example, and this is what we do in our sessions, why it's so important. We withhold desired items until spontaneous request is made. We use daily routines to promote requesting and commenting. So this is why it's so important that we work on manding, right? Because manding is spontaneous and it benefits the child. So while a parent may want to say, oh, will they ever talk? They want the child to just talk, and they don't realize that we have strategies in order to help children talk. So one of them is focusing on man training, and man training will use reinforcers and desired items to assist the child in speaking. So that's why it's so important that we have to do net teaching, that we have to get out of this tabletop goal in order to go and have that child have motivating reinforcers. The next slide you might see is a child is a really picky eater, so much so that I'm concerned for his nutrition. How can I get him to eat more? Or how can I get him to eat better? Well, your BCBA, when they did the assessment, probably went over this with the parent. And goals should be in place to address this. However, maybe this question is asked when there's not a plan in place for feeding, or maybe this just happened. So your response should be, let's bring this up to the BCBA. There are many research-backed interventions for increasing food repertoires. We could also, the BCBA might be able to tell them that some strategies that have worked for other kids are simultaneous presentation of preferred and non-preferred foods presented at the same time. So French fries with peas, same time. Also sequential presentation. So acceptance of non-preferred food results in preferred food. So this is like the Premack principle. I'm going, it's the eat your peas and you'll get the French fries or you'll get dessert. Also there's desensitization. So non-preferred food is gradually and systematically introduced and reinforced during non-food related tangible reinforcers. So I might have, a cracker that the child really does not like, but if they're playing with favorite toys and doing things, I might put a cracker or a picture of a cracker, and we're going to desensitize them. Okay, so these are just some examples of what some strategies have worked. Again, you're not going to be presenting these to the parent, the BCBA will, but it's important that you have some background knowledge in this. You might hear, my child is becoming really aggressive. What can we do about this? And you would be finding out that they're aggressive also if you're working with them. But you could say, it is important to find out why the child is upset. Every behavior serves a function. It may be helpful to list situations that elicit that type of behavior to help us determine why. We can take ABC data and have the BCBA conduct a functional behavior assessment in order to come up with the function. Once they determine the function, we can enact a behavior plan. You could also say, here's a list of potential reasons why Johnny's aggressing upon others. Medical reasons, escape, attention, tangible, sensory. Remember, these are our functions of behavior, and the children could have multiple functions. Again, the BCBA will conduct the functional behavior assessment. You and the parents will be collecting that frequency data of behavior as well as ABC data in order to go and figure out what the function of the behavior is, and then we'll enact a behavior plan once we find out the function. We hear some parents saying, should I put my child on a gluten-free diet or casein-free diet or anything? Remember that as behavior analysts, we abide by the principles and the dimensions of ABA. So we must never recommend interventions that are not backed by scientific peer-reviewed studies. Even so, we should never talk down to a parent or make them feel like they are less of a parent. So we could say just simply, I urge you to consult your physician if you do choose to implement this diet. So what we might want to say is this is a very trendy diet and many parents testify to its efficacy. However, there is no research that exists to validate their claims that it cures autism or diminishes characteristics of the diagnosis. We might want to say that, but we don't want to make the parents feel uncomfortable. So again, let's refer them to their medical doctor. You should not be giving your opinion based on anything other than scientifically backed peer-reviewed research. And from that, you should be enacting what the BCBA has set out for you. So any opinions that you have should go through to the BCBA, and the BCBA will then go and relay whether or not that's an appropriate suggestion for the parents. So again, we don't want to weigh in on diets or certain programs that we don't have any knowledge in. Sometimes you might hear parents say, I noticed that Julie is crying more with so-and-so or this teacher. Why? Again, we should refer them to the BCBA in this matter and make the BCBA aware that maybe the BT has not paired with the child. We don't want to get involved in talking smack or talking about other people in the case. This could cause a lot of problems, and again, the child is the one that would lose out. The BCBA might tell them all of the BTs in your home have attended the same trainings in the method of applied behavior analysis. Perhaps one BT comes in when the child has just woken up for a nap, or before mealtime when the child's hungry. There are many variables. It could be that one therapist is requiring more of the child. They can say, let's look at these requirements and make sure all the therapists are on the same page, right? Again, that's why it's important that we all teach the same way if we're on a case with other people, so that this way the child is able to do the same goals with everyone and works with everybody the same, and doesn't cry more when one person is there. Again, they might not be paired, so we might have to go back to a pairing phase. We get this one a lot. My child is stimming a lot. Why does he or she do it? How do we stop it? So stimming is now referred to as a stereotypy. So you might see stereotypical or stereotypy. It doesn't serve a social function, right? So stimming doesn't help children to relate to others, but rather it's a sensory function for the child. In other words, he does it because it feels good, or it removes an uncomfortable feeling. I want you to watch this video for more information on stimming.
Hi, I'm Amethyst, and welcome to the first episode of Ask an Autistic. For the first episode of Ask an Autistic, I'm going to introduce myself and talk a bit about stimming. Firstly, I'm Amethyst. I am 22 years old. I'm autistic, and I blog about disability and autism at my Tumblr blog, NeuroWonderful. I get a lot of questions from parents, family members, some educators about autism, and it's good, it's great. I think that right now we're going into a time where people are realizing that maybe what we thought we knew about autism isn't accurate, and what we thought we knew about autism was the observations, sometimes inaccurate observations, of neurotypical scientists, doctors, and researchers. So I think it's great. Come at me, bring all the questions. I'm just so happy to answer them, because I do dream of and work towards a world where autism is widely accepted and that autistic people can be themselves and be happy doing so. Happy autistic people. Yay! Stimming. What is stimming? Stimming is also known as stereotype behaviors, and in some parts of the world I've heard them called tics. So stimming, stims, tics, kind of all the same thing. Autistic people might self-stimulate for 3 different reasons, which I'll get into, and those 3 reasons are to self-regulate, to seek sensory input, sensory seeking, and expression. Firstly, what does stimming look like? Stimming, I think the most classic example is hand flapping. Parents notice this in their young autistic children, that they will flap their hands when excited or agitated or just when they're happy and enjoying life. And I hand flap when I'm excited or when I'm anxious. So that's a good example. Also rocking. Many autistic people are known to rock, and that's a common stimming behavior. Other stimming behaviors can include all the senses. There are actually 7 senses. There's more actually, but I'm going to talk about the 7. So you know the 5 of taste, touch, smell, sight, hearing, but you also have proprioceptive sense, and that's the sense that your brain knows where you are in space and also knows where your body parts are and also how much pressure to put on things. So you want to be very gentle picking a flower, or you want to put a lot of force into hammering a nail. That is all determined by proprioceptive input. And then there's the vestibular sense, the 7th sense, and that is actually very closely connected to your inner ear, and it's balance and also movement and motion. So the vestibular sense is how your body knows that you're in motion or at rest, up or down, upside down or right side up. So that's the 7 senses. And so stimming can include and incorporate any of the 7 senses and sometimes multiple senses at once. So touch might be rubbing a soft blanket, or might be smelling something like essential oil, or just something that's interesting to you. When I was a kid, it was dandelions. You could visually stim, by looking at a windmill turning or something sparkly or flashing. You can stim all kinds of ways. Vestibular stimming would be spinning, which is also quite common in autistic children and adults. If you happen to like spinning on your computer chair, which I do. And then proprioceptive input stimming would be kids who like to wrestle as they play, or who will be very physical, and they kind of like throw themselves on their bed and jump up and down on the couch. They might be even undersensitive to proprioceptive input, so it's a way to know where their bodies are in space and to feel good. That's another aspect of stimming. As most people who have an autistic family member or who are autistic know, along with autism comes sensory processing disorder. And that's where your brain doesn't perceive sensory input in an accurate way. Is that when you have sensory processing disorder, it's not just uncomfortable. It's not like, well, those lights are rather bright, but I can deal with it. It's how those lights are like spears of hot pain going into my eyes. So a way to deal with all of this loud, bright, too fast, too crowded sensory input is to self-regulate, which is basically blocking bad input with good input. So a child who is sitting in their classroom and the fluorescent lights are overhead and they're flickering terribly and making you nauseous, and all the kids around you are whispering or chewing gum, and the noises are getting to you, and you've been sitting for 2 hours and you don't know what you're going to do, you can self-regulate by rocking in your desk, by rubbing something like the rubbery end of an eraser, twirling your hair, tapping something against the side of your face. You can fidget with a fidget toy. All of these things, you can focus on the good sensory input, focus on one thing, and the rest of the world, which is too overwhelming and threatens to, cause a meltdown, it fades away. And so self-regulation is great. You can do it in all kinds of settings. I do it everywhere. When I was a kid, I was really discouraged from stimming, which I'm going to talk about in another video, and why you shouldn't discourage people from stimming. So it took me a while to get over that and to start to stim again, particularly in public. So now I mostly can, maybe not around my in-laws, still a little shy about that, but if I'm at the mall or at the movie theater, I'm not shy about doing what I need to do. When it comes to looking normal versus being able to live and function and be a happy, healthy autistic adult who stims, I would definitely take the latter, because looking normal drains your energy. It's terrible. You have to put up with all of the negative sensory input with no way to self-regulate. No, you can't stim. Like, why? It's terrible. You get exhausted, and maybe you could only spend 10 minutes at a party versus an hour if you were able to stim. So self-regulation, stimming is great for that. The second reason is sensory seeking. Neurotypical people have this too. They enjoy things, right? Like, delicious chocolate mousse, or, oh, that music is so beautiful. But I think autistic people might take it to another level, seeking sensory input and just really enjoying it. When I'm listening to a sound I really enjoy, or I'm, rocking and listening to music at the same time and just feeling the music flow through me, and I just get in the zone, just so blissful, spinning in my computer chair. I feel so happy. Sensory seeking is great and just very enjoyable. And so some neurotypical parents will wonder, Johnny's been holding a flashlight up to his face and turning it on and off for the past 2 hours. Should I stop him? Yeah, I'd say unless it's a laser flashlight and there's a chance of eye damage, no. Because, it might not be the way that a neurotypical child would play and enjoy themselves, but little Johnny is having a great time. His brain is just firing with fireworks of joy and enjoying the sensory input, and I say, it's fine. Has Johnny done his homework? Has he eaten dinner and taken a bath? Then, let him look at the flashlight for 2 hours, or rock to music, or bang his Thomas the Train engines together. What's the harm, other than maybe embarrassment on the parts of neurotypical parents? Expression is the third reason that people might stim, autistic people. And it's interesting to me that neurotypical doctors and scientists have lumped all kinds of hand flapping and rocking together, when to me it's quite obvious, because it is my natural body language, that there are different kinds of rocking and different kinds of flapping. In my experience, if I'm really enjoying something and I'll start rocking with, my neck extended a little bit, and it'll be more slow and rhythmic. Like, this chocolate cake, or, oh, this apple fritter is great. Agitated or anxious rocking, more hunched over and quicker, shorter motions. And my husband, who lives with me, of course, has grown to learn and know what my rocking means and my hand flapping. Happy hand flapping, yeah, so much fun, I love kittens. And then there's my more agitated hand flapping. Oh no, my husband Marvin knows to come over and ask, is everything okay, what's going on? And oh no, my cat, she's jumping up on the bookshelf. She's so bad. She can't stand me giving attention to anything else. Okay, hi kitty. Hand flapping, expression, that's the third reason that people might stim. And that's another reason why it's terrible to discourage stimming. We don't just need it for self-regulation. It's the natural way that we move. It's, our natural way of growing, learning, expressing ourselves. And so if you tell a child, don't flap your hands in public, the child is just expressing their joy, and you're telling them, no, stop, the way you move is bad and shameful. What does that tell the kid about themselves? Personally, that if someone has a problem with a child hand flapping, which isn't hurting anyone, that is their problem. I think rather than forcing autistic individuals to conform and force themselves very, exhaustingly to act and look normal, I think a better option is to encourage society to learn and embrace different neurotypes, because, hey, I think autism is great. And autistic people are wonderful and lovely. So that was my first video on stimming. I'm sorry I talked really fast. I'm going to try to talk less fast next video. And maybe my cat Kitty will be back. So, stay tuned if you like cats. I do. Thanks for watching my video. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask them in the comment section. And I'll be linking to a few resources on stimming, what stimming is, what stimming looks like. And if you want to like this video or thumbs it up, that'd be cool too. Thanks for watching the very first episode of Ask Anna.
So that is a video by someone on the spectrum that described what stimming was and also gave her opinion on the need for stimming. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background on stimming. A lot of parents and a lot of people, neurotypical people, will not agree with that and will want a child to not do that, because when they're younger it might go and make them not able to relate to their peers. So we could say stereotypical behaviors are really hard to eliminate completely, because first we need to find something that is more fun for the child than the act of flapping or self-talking or rocking. I can recommend some articles to help you better understand this type of behavior. One such article is Stereotypy in Autism, the Importance of Function. So generally when we have stimming or stereotypies, we see if we get rid of one, something else will crop up in its place. So we need to understand the function and then either give time alone to go and stim, or appropriate more functional strategies, or more appropriate, socially appropriate strategies. Another question you might get is, I want to start toilet training. How do we begin? Again, with this, the BCBA should have created a plan for this, because this is something that the child should have been, this should have been discussed with the parents of the child during the initial assessment phase. However, sometimes during this time, the child could show some signs of readiness, and then we would have to develop a protocol for that. And just so you know, some signs of readiness for toilet training are that the child can dress and undress themselves, that they can follow some simple directions, that they can communicate by some means that he or she is wet, and that they're presently eliminating, right? So that they know, oh, I'm going pee-pees now, or oh, I need my diaper changed. That's a sign that they're ready to begin toilet training. And also, the child needs to be able to control his or her bladder. So they should only go like a maximum about once per hour. If the child doesn't have any of these signs, they are not ready to toilet train yet. And so the BCBA would have to explain to the parents that we need some of these signs of readiness before we can start toilet training. We also would hear, I don't see behaviors X, Y, and Z as problem behaviors. What makes you think that we need to intervene? Again, the BCBA should always be consulted on this. Remember, we could say, that's a great question. Let's talk to the BCBA about it. But as an RBT, you should know the things that constitute problem behaviors are when it interferes with learning, when it poses a danger to the learner or others, when it places property at risk, when it creates a barrier to participation, right? If a child isn't able to participate in activities with other children, then that is something that we need to intervene with. When it creates a barrier to relationships, and when it has become stigmatizing. Those are reasons that we need to intervene. Now we're going to get into team meetings. You may be asked to be part of team meetings. These occur during your session and will involve both the family and the BCBA. These meetings help everyone to get on the same page, and we discuss the child's progress as well as some issues that we're having with the child. Team meetings should also focus on explaining to the parents the goals and also showing them how goals are run. Sometimes parents will bring up that they feel a strategy isn't working, and you and your BCBA and yourself can discuss this with them. This is also why data is so important, because you can show them the data and say, I understand you don't feel that this is working, but let's look at the data, and the data will show them, oh, guess what? It is. Maybe we just need to generalize it more to the family and stop working so much just within our session. Sometimes when you have that, the reasons that a strategy may, like we could look at the data and maybe that it's not working. So why might the family find the strategy ineffective or the intervention ineffective? Well, is it user friendly? Can it be tweaks? Remember, sometimes if we're not specific and using words that can be understood by everyone, the goal might not be run quite the way it should have been. So we might need to tweak that. Did we give enough time to see if the treatment could work? That's another reason. Maybe the parents jump to the conclusion after the first time, oh, it's not working. Another consideration, are all members of the team implementing the strategy effectively? So do we have treatment integrity? Are we all on the same page, working the same way? We also might say perhaps more than one controlling variable exists to maintain the problem behavior, right? We've discussed in other trainings that problem behaviors could have different functions. And if there's more than one function, we need to look to see, maybe we are only focusing on the strategy of the function of escape. Maybe we also need to find the function of a strategy for attention. So we might need to backtrack and look at those functions. When we're in team meetings, we also should be discussing the long-term outcomes. So all of our interventions may be short-term, but they should always have a long-term objective. We always want to have a long-term goal. Where do we want to see this child? What do we want to see them doing? So even when we're proposing a short-term strategy, we should always note the long-term objectives. Your BCBA should always have a long-term, short-term plan for every goal. For instance, it's not enough that a child can tell you the function of an apple. The long-term goal would be to have a conversation about apples or have the child speak in a full sentence, right? That's our long-term goal. We don't want to just know the function of an apple. That might be worthless on its own. But we want to be able to use that, oh, you eat an apple, to go and speak in a full sentence, and then eventually to have a conversation and relate to other people. When we begin a case, our BCBA should first discuss preference assessments with parents. They should know, are there any items, food or other tangible items, that they don't want used in sessions? They should also explain the concept of satiation and why we need reinforcers to hold their values. Remember, satiation is going up and filling up, if you will, on a certain reinforcer to the point that's no longer reinforcing it. Just like I said in some examples, I had a full chocolate cake to myself. That's not really reinforcing anymore because I just ate an entire chocolate cake. I don't want another slice anymore. So we need to make sure that the child is not satiated before a session. The BCBA will also ask if there's any reinforcers that pose a problem outside of therapy. So if a child is perseverating constantly on an iPad when it's not during therapy, then we're going to make sure that we come up with some strategies so that this way they're not constantly perseverating on it, and we won't use it in our session as well. Or we'll teach an appropriate way to use it in our session. They should explain the importance of sharing these problems with you in the BCBA. The point of all of this before the session happens is that this way you're going to be able to come in and work with the child, and their reinforcers will be effective. If you're having trouble with this, always contact your BCBA. If you find that the child is being fed a big meal and you're using edible reinforcers and they're not working, contact your BCBA and we'll discuss that with the family. So when we're working, now we're going to get a little bit into home programming and working on family training. First, when we're working in the home, the materials. Families should make materials necessary for therapy accessible for you. So the program book you should know where the program book is, or if you have a communication book, you should know where that is, as well as toys, activities, and teaching materials, right? They should be where you should be comfortable going and getting them. Communication. Let parents know that their input is what makes programming effective. So ABA focuses on improving social outcomes. If the child learns a skill that's not generalizing to the family, or implementation is not manageable for them, then we need to revise that programming, and the BCBA needs to come in and revise it or change it a little bit. Parents and caregivers should always participate in sessions in order to ensure generalization of skills. RBTs should include parents and teach them how to implement teaching procedures, both at home and in the community. So it's important that you're going to be working with the child, but you need to also make sure that the parents are working with the child. We're only there for a certain period of time, and when we're not there, the parents should be able to go and have the child complete these goals as well. So we're going to talk about behavioral skills training and how to work with parents. So behavioral skills training is a procedure of instructions, modeling, rehearsal, and feedback that is used to teach new behaviors or skills. Your BCBA should develop a plan and goals for parent training, but the following slides will give you some insight into how it should work. And remember, we said ABA is not for just people on the spectrum. ABA is for all living beings. So we're using behavioral skills training to teach parents how to work with their children. So there should always first be, as with everything, a written protocol. This will outline the steps necessary to carry out the procedure. For our purposes, we're going to provide the parent with the components of a discrete trial. So the antecedent, the prompt, the response, a consequence for a correct response, a consequence for an incorrect response, and an intertrial interval. Then we're going to give verbal instructions. So this could be a verbal narrative of the written protocol you've provided. So you could just read through what you've written, or you could just kind of summarize it for the parents. Make sure that we're translating behavioral terms into plain English. Remember, some parents may not understand our behavioral terms, so it's important to explain to them what it means and what it is. Otherwise, our parent training is not going to work. We should always include a rationale for each step. Why are we doing something? We have to do it this way because whatever. You need to fill in the blanks. Make sure that you're including a rationale, because otherwise it may not make sense why we're doing something. And always, always allow parents and caregivers to ask questions. Remember, if you don't have the answer to a question, you refer to your BCBA. And when you're doing family training, your BCBA should initially be present. And then as you and the parent, feel more comfortable, your BCBA can be part of it less and less, and you can encourage parents to work on things more often during your sessions. So a written protocol actually looks a little bit like a task analysis. This is an example. Number one, the individual should be sitting in a chair demonstrating attention. So eye contact, hands in lap, body oriented toward you. Number two, place reinforcers besides you or nearby. Number three, get the individual's attention. Number four, give a short, clear instruction. So that's the antecedent or the SD. Number five, wait 2 to 5 seconds. Number six, if the individual responds correctly, provide immediate reinforcement. So that's a consequence. If the individual makes an error or does not respond, provide prompting necessary to complete the response. Also a consequence. Record response as either a plus or a minus based on the response. Number 8, repeat steps 3 to 7 until sufficient data is collected. So as you can see, it's written as a task analysis. It's very clear. There's no, if there's any questions that the parents have, you can answer them, but it's very clear, it's written down, and it can be placed right in front of them so that this way they know what's expected. Modeling. You're going to model what a discrete child should look like by following the protocol that we just outlined. While modeling, you should stop and explain what you're doing. So give a run through. Don't just show them what you're doing, explain what you're doing. So for example, did you see how I gave her the M&M immediately that time? Or watch the way I'm changing the position of the cards. You could do this in person, or sometimes you could have a video model so that this way you can videotape the parent or videotape yourself and then show the parent what you've done. Next, the parents try, so they're going to rehearse it. During rehearsal, it's best if you role play as a child. So if the parent has never worked on discrete trials, then you want to role play with them so that this way the child doesn't get confused. If the parents have extensive background in this, then you don't have to role play with yourself. You could have the child be there. If you role play with yourself as the child, you can purposely make errors to give the parent an opportunity to use error correction procedures. And again, you can videotape this so that the parent can view and critique themselves afterwards. Okay, feedback is next. Remember, you always want to deliver both positive and corrective feedback. So we use the feedback sandwich model. Give corrective feedback in moderation and with regard to the parent's feeling. Monitor the language that you're using to deliver feedback. Make sure that you're explaining why when you're giving the corrective feedback. And so we say like compliment, criticism, compliment, right? We always want to make sure that we're explaining why they need to do something. So, we want to make sure that you are putting the cards here so that this way the child doesn't look for the card that's closest to him every single time. Repeat. If there's some component that is not well understood or has not been performed to criterion in rehearsal, repeat until competency is demonstrated, right? So we don't want to just do it one time and then that's it. They've done parent training. We need to repeat it, and especially if they don't understand it, we repeat it often. So I'm going to show you some examples of parent training.
Now, what I wanted to talk about, what we're going to focus today for the session, I know you guys were talking about sharing as an issue. Also, compliance is something I hear a lot. So we're going to do a little interaction with all the kids. We're going to have them play. And then I wanted to see which one of you guys is going to want to give the directive to clean up. Who do you think is going to be doing that today? You? And then we'll go ahead and have the boys, if you want to tell them, Maria, that we're going to do the trains right now. And then Germán, help out with the cleanup, and then I'll tell you any tips or anything. We'll go through that together. Okay? Any questions? I mean, okay. All right.
So, look,
So that's a good thing. They're playing alongside. They can share space.
Okay.
And he's making it a difficult town. He doesn't want anyone to leave the town. Be like, oh, okay.
Look.
So in 1 minute,
Yes.
I want you to tell them it's gonna be time to go and.
Okay.
Okay. I'll tell you in 1 minute. Oh, it's so far away. We can't go
Come
there.
on,
Wait,
closer.
right to get close.
You made it.
Oh,
Okay, let's
you
come
made
closer,
it.
please.
Look at that. We have, what are these called again, Funkies? Look at this one. He has the sun. He's gonna go up in the tree.
Sebastian,
Sebastian, let's put it together, please.
And then you can.
before we go to wash our hands, we need to clean up.
Okay. Sounds like a good
You
idea.
want to clean up? Let's go clean up.
I have the bucket
clean
right
up.
over
Where's the
there.
bucket? Where's the bucket? Let's go clean up. Sebastian,
Yeah, the
sit
red
down.
bucket, and I'll get the white.
No, nice.
No.
I'll tell him that it's set up nice to throw the
Nice.
train tracks,
Come
and then
here.
you can show him
Nice,
how.
nicely.
Okay.
Stop. Come here.
There you go.
Get it? It's
Good job,
Excellent. Good job, guys.
No.
See Rainbow around down?
Come here, Steph.
Come on, sit down.
Sit down.
I also see a rainbow around you.
Awesome.
Also on my hand.
Okay, take it off.
And everything.
You did a great job.
Yes,
You did a
and
great
then
job,
you're
okay? I
very
like
proud
the
of
way
me, okay?
you are right now, okay?
Come on, get
Ask him what game we're gonna do next.
Aiden, what game are we gonna do next?
Shoot gelatos.
Okay, as soon as you're done cleaning up.
Go ahead and ask him.
Finish putting the puzzle away.
You can just put it away on the side how he usually does and get the game out.
I need
Okay,
this away.
put the puzzle right here, and then we'll play the game.
binoculars.
Okay, sit right here.
Let's do shoot the ladders.
Go ahead and just have him set up the game for us.
Aiden,
Ask him to.
Aiden, can you set up the game?
Kind of praise him as he's putting out the board.
Ow.
Okay.
I got the board.
Can you put that right here, please? Good job.
And then
job.
we
Great
need some
job.
pieces
Okay.
for the
Ask him.
game.
Let's take out the pieces and then we'll choose which ones.
Okay, take out the pieces and we'll choose who we're gonna be.
I want to be Dylan.
wanna be Dylan?
Can I be
a
Dylan this
race
time?
boy.
Can I be Dylan?
You're a girl. You're gonna be this girl.
I want to be Dylan this time.
But sorry, you can't. You can't be a boy
Why not?
because I'm a boy.
Okay, well then I want to be this girl.
Who goes first?
Me.
What if we do rock, paper, scissors?
Oh, rock, paper, scissors. That's a good idea.
Okay, let's all do it,
I
okay?
Rock, paper,
scissors.
scissors.
Oh, Mom's out.
Oh, I lost. Okay, it's you
Okay.
and Daisy.
Let's see who goes first.
Rock, paper, scissors.
I picked rock. I win.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, rock beats scissors, so I get to choose who goes first. How about Mom goes first?
Can I go first?
I think Daisy didn't want.
Daisy won.
No.
So Mom goes first, and Mom chooses who goes next.
I think I'm gonna go first, and should Ada go first?
Yes.
Yes? No, I'm first, Aiden.
Go ahead and
Okay.
tell him you're first, he's second, and then I'll be third.
I'm first, and then you're next, and then Daisy's last. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, good job.
How's that?
Okay, I'm gonna go 6. Who am I again? I'm this girl, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on the back.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You did.
Okay, it's your turn.
You're on the back.
You gotta spin it.
Wow. Oops. 1, 2.
Good job. Whose turn is it?
Daisy.
Good job.
Good job, Aiden.
You're on the middle.
Wow, look, I got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm tied with Mom.
Wow.
Wait.
Okay, take your turn.
Oh.
Good job. How many is that? My turn. 6. Can you move me 6, please?
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. I got 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I win.
Daisy won.
High five. High five.
No.
No high five. What do we say when someone wins?
Not me.
Say, great job, Daisy.
Good reminder right now. You're gonna give them the snacks of just.
Aiden,
Finish
we're
the
done with the
game.
game. So say, great job, Daisy, and then I'll get you a snack.
I don't want to.
You don't want your snack?
Could we just say good game?
Good game.
Okay, let's clean up.
Of us being family trainers or parent trainers is for us to fade ourselves back so that this way we're just providing a little bit of feedback or not at all. Our ultimate goal is that the family can do this on their own. And that video shows you just a little bit of how we can fade ourselves out. For references, you can look up any of these, and you may now take the quiz.